Hey, welcome back. Good to see you again. Thanks for joining the channel. Hope you're well. Today on the bench I got something a little different. Something that you don't really see on the channel very often. This is an all-in-one unit. This is a Soundesign AM/FM stereo receiver, stereo cassette, 8-track recorder. So it's an all-in-one device. It has cassette with record capabilities. It's got an AM/FM tuner. It's got 8-track with record capabilities. It's got input for phono. And it's got anything you could ever want in one unit. And this is kind of something you'd find in a department store back in the 80s. This is sold as a basic system for people. They come in, they want a stereo, they don't know what brand to buy or anything. When you buy one of these, you probably get a set of speakers with it, and very good chance they also threw in a turntable as well, a cheaply made turntable, so you could spin some records. But in itself, it's a really nice featured unit, and for all those features, you're giving up, you're sacrificing your quality. So the quality is really not there. This is just something that's going to work for you. It's not going to work great, but it's going to do the business. It's going to do everything you want it to do. So this is a Klein unit. He brought it in. He says this isn't for him. It's actually for his brother, because his brother wants to use it for 8-tracks. So he wants the simple all-in-one system. You can play cassettes or 8-tracks, listen to the radio. So he wants it serviced, and wants it all running good for his brother, and that's what we're going to do. So I'll go through and test all its functions. I don't know what work it needs. These things were pretty much indestructible unless you connected the speakers up wrong or something and blew up the power amp inside. They would last forever. Typical switches, dirty pots and switches, you would get, yes, and you'd also get dirty tape heads from lack of service, but these things typically ran forever. So let's have a look at it quick, and then we'll move on. Alright, starting on the left hand side, we have our cassette deck with a standard mechanism. It's probably nothing. It's probably a run-of-the-mill mechanism inside with your piano keys here. And looking inside, I can see it does have a full erase head, which is good, because some of these units, they only have the magnet that flips up. We've got our capstan and roller, got our record and playback head, and then we have a full erase head, which is good, because sometimes you usually just see a magnet that will flip up and it will crudely erase the tape. But this has that full erase head, and it's also got this auto stop lever. This lever here, what it is it rides on the tape, and then when the tape hits the end, it increases in tension, and the increased tension pushes this lever down, and when that lever gets pushed down, it kicks in the auto stop mechanism. So that's your auto stop feature right there, with that plastic thing sticking up. Your pause, what pause does is it removes the pinch roller from the capstan and the tape stops. That's what happens there. So it's a basic mechanism, forward, reverse, and record. So these mechanisms are pretty reliable, but they're not built to tight tolerances, so they're not great performers. They do work well. They just don't, like a real dedicated cassette deck would have a really nice mechanism in it that's to tight tolerances. That's my point. So we'll service that. It probably needs belts. Power switch, headphone output, and then we have 2 inputs for a microphone, which is nice. You can record onto the cassette, and here's your levels for input of recording. It's got a tape selector switch. Look at that, for special tape or normal. Now I think what they're trying to do here is normal bias and chromium bias. That's what that switch is for. Got a tape counter, and then we have a record indicator for the cassette or the 8-track, depending on which deck you're using. And then it has a tape run indicator, which is looks like there's just a series of LEDs that probably just light up in sequence as the tape is rolling through. That's what that is, I think. I'm not sure what's there. We'll have to see when we turn it on. Speaker switch for main and auxiliary, or just main, so we have the ability to add extra speakers. Here in the center we got a big volume control, and we have our function switch, magnetic cartridge for phono, ceramic cartridge, or your auxiliary input. So this would be a line level input, this would be a low level RIAA input for those. And then we have select our tape. It just has tape, it doesn't have cassette or 8-track, so when this is pressed in, either one will play. AM tuner, FM auto, and then we have our bass, treble, and balance controls. Here we got our analog AM FM dial scale, FM stereo lamp, and our function indicator for what function we're in, magnetic phonos, auxiliary, tape, AM FM. Couple of record meters here for our tape machines. They're volume unit level meters for left and right, and then we have a center tuning meter for our tuner. For the 8-track portion, we have our auto eject. We can go after each track, we can turn it off, or we can have after tracks 1 to 4 play through. So probably it would be set in that position. You put your card in, after it plays through tracks 1 to 4 it would stop. We have a fast forward button to speed through a track that you don't like, a pause program button for advancing to the next track, record button, that's, you press that before you stick your card in, and then we have an eject. So I guess that would push out the cart. Instead of pulling on it, you could just eject it. So as you can see, this thing has a lot of versatility built into it. Like I said before, you're trading off quality for versatility. And this thing will perform, it just won't perform great. We're going to see how well it's going to perform. Maybe we can make it some improvements to it. Maybe we'll see how it works. We'll get it going. I just want to go through, I'm going to go through off camera, I'm going to go through all the functions, make sure everything's working, and if I have any problems I'll bring you back in, I'll tell you what's going on, what needs repair. Here's the back side of it. We've got antenna inputs. It has a built-in FM antenna that I guess you connect to the center conductor here. Probably what this is it probably has a wire that wraps around the incoming power cord, and what they're doing is they're doing some inductive coupling there, or capacitive coupling between what FM signals coming in on the power cord, which would be your antenna, and then it couples it and isolates it and puts it on this terminal here. Got an input for your magnetic phono cartridge, 3 millivolt input level, left and right, and then we have our ceramic phono or auxiliary input, 300 millivolt level. So this would be line level, this would be magnetic cartridge, and then we have these goofy RCA connectors for speaker outputs, main and auxiliary. And he was kind enough to supply me with a pair of connectors. I do have these here because I have, sometimes I work on this old kind of equipment that has these RCA speakers. And then we have a ground connection for our turntable. Here's a look at the model number, 5954. Power source takes 120 watts maximum. I highly doubt we'll ever see 120 watts on the power cord. Compliance, Magnasonic Canada, Montreal. Warning, don't go inside because it's dangerous. And that's pretty much it. So I believe there's no screws in the back, so I believe what we got to do is remove the screws in the bottom, and then the whole chassis comes out the front. So let's do that. Okay, first off, this function switch here is horrible. See, the left channel is cut out.
And all preaching has to have
very, this is tape. Here. So this function switch here is phono, magnetic. Yeah, listen to that. What are we drawing for power? 28 watts.
my mind. I'm always referring to the spiritual gift. Now, a person can.
This is 19 watts. This is 26 watts. Why are we consuming so much power? 15, 16.
Not desiring that office. The spirit of...
Yeah, there's something wrong here. I don't know why the power consumption
Maybe
jumps.
they haven't demonstrated.
Don't know why the power consumption jumps from almost 10 watts when I put it into tape mode. There's really nothing going on unless there's putting DC on one of the speakers or something like that. So we're gonna have to go through and clean all this switch. This is terrible. I'm trying to get this, but let's see if we can get this to work. See, it's up around 30 watts. Terrible, 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 terrible.
The gift in the church.
Okay, so I might have to. I don't want to do that too much. It might burn out my speakers. I don't know what's coming out the other end of this thing. Okay, here's a look at the power consumption on the AM when I turned the tape. You see this? It's going into oscillation or something. Yeah, there's something wrong with it.
You also.
Consumption goes way up. It shouldn't do that at all. I'm wondering where that power is going. That's what concerns me. Just going through the 8-track here, and I'm getting nothing from the 8-track at all. Still getting this scratchiness from the tape. Everything seems fine. It's just that there's no... Oh, hang on, that didn't sound good. Very crunchy noise. Let's try that again. Yeah, I can hear the tape inside turning. Mechanicals are all working. There's just nothing coming out of the head going to the amplifiers. Or it is, but it's... Another thing I noticed, these VU meters are messed up. This one's pegged at +4. This one is sitting right around 7. And I don't think...
encouraged by John's Bible.
I don't think these are right either.
We're talking about ring aspects. Spence diamond engagement rings are loving resource for understanding.
So something's
God's
wrong with
word.
this circuit.
That's available in hard.
So the FM working really good. It's really sensitive, but it needs an alignment. This meter here is supposed to be a center tuning meter, and it always swings to the right. Picking up stereo fine. Picking up a lot of noise though. I can hear the stereo separation. I think this discriminator needs an adjustment.
And Colleen, Sharon.
Tuner is really sensitive. It's picking up stations that normally a tuner wouldn't. It probably needs a little bit of an alignment, like I said. So here's a look at the bottom. Got to remove 9 screws. These ones here, they're holding the chassis into the box. It's like a wooden box. It has a schematic here. This is really nice. And looking at this, this has discrete output power amplifier. What are they using for transistors? 2SA, oh right here. 2SD 325s, and it's a quasi-complementary. Okay, that's good. Chips for the FM tuner, which is pretty standard affair. And then we have, you can't see any of this, it's too small. There are cassette and 8-track heads, and it's got discrete amplifiers for that too. So we probably have, for the tape decks, we probably have switching for record and playback, and that's where the problems usually lies. Dirty switch contacts and open circuits, and then we have oscillations breaking out. The switch is right here and right here, and that causes all kinds of problems. That's probably what we have going on here. Power supplies up here. This is nice and handy. I like this. I wish more people would have, or more manufacturers would have done this. Alright, so when you remove the wooden box, this is what you get. Basically what you have is a front panel that looks really nice from the outside, but everything's just bolted to it from behind. So here you got your cassette mechanism. It's a stand-up one. Here you have your 8-track mechanism. And from what it looks like, they're using this board here has got the amplifiers on it, the record, playback, the erase, oscillators. Everything's contained on this one board, and they're using this one board for both decks because it looks like there's this there's this ribbon here that runs from one side. This is the record button I'm pressing, and it runs over and it activates this switch. Now I'm not 100% sure on this, but this switch here is for the 8-track, this switch here is for the cassette. So they're doing everything on one board. This is to save duplication on parts and cut costs. And this here is tuner, and all along here we have our amplifier, our power amplifier, and then we have our switching along the front. So everything else is contained on this one main board. Really not much else to it. You got your power supply transformer here, not a very big one. If we flip it up, you can see we have some tone controls here on this board. And we have our switching here on the switches. And this is all our tuner. This is all power supply and power amplifier. So, not the easiest thing to work on. A lot of problems with access. For example, if you want to work on this board, you have the dial string and everything attached to it, plus you have all the wiring all on this side, and then you have all of this wiring that's attached. So to get the board out, it's a real pain, but we're going to persevere here. We need to get these 5 switches, 5 or 6 switches, there's 6 here. I'd like to get this board out so I can get these switches and clean them, because that's the main culprit right now is these switches. So I'm going to work on getting that out. Looks like I need to remove the front panel. I got 3 screws in the bottom, and then 3 on top, and that should remove the front plate, and that should allow me access to the screws, and then I should be able to get this board out. Another problem is this thing's just loaded with garbage parts. They didn't put much care into the selection of quality parts here. It's just Unicon caps, no name brand, and let's see if we can find a date code somewhere here. I don't see anything. Usually on the motor there's a date code. Anyhow, enough rambling, I'll get busy. Okay, I got the switch out. That wasn't easy. That was a pain. That was a total pain. Reason being, I had this dial string right across all these solder joints. I had to move the dial string out of the way to get it. Use a solder sucker on all these. But we got it out. It's all past trauma now, so we're going to get moved forward. Now this switch is not behaving very well. I'm just checking it here. For example, this set of contacts here, 35 ohms. Let's try this one. 23 ohms, about this side. 2.5 ohms, that's not bad. It's not good. 21 ohms. Yeah, this whole thing is just totally oxidized from just age. This one here. Well, this one's not even. Okay, 15 ohms. 2.5, but it's really flaky. All these switches are 45 ohms. So my plan is disassemble and clean these switches. This is going to be essential. What I'm going to do is I'm going to remove each switch and clean it individually, and then I'll put it all back together. Going through and doing pots and switches. You can see some residue here. Somebody did a spray and pray here. Look at this. Some kind of white lithium grease or something they sprayed in this pot. I don't know what that stuff is, but it might have worked for the short term. I don't know. It's all over. So flush this stuff out. I got these switches done. The contact resistance is down under 20 milliohms now for all of these, so this switch should not give any more troubles, not in the near future. So I'm going to finish these pots, put this all back together, and then I'm going to focus my attention on this here. We got two long slide switches on this. Both of these need to be treated because this is probably the cause of our upset with the tape drives. We're not getting any audio through these switches, and need to get those taken apart and cleaned. So I'll do that next. And I'm also looking at these caps here. These caps are garbage, and they should really be replaced. I got high ESR on some of these, are like in the hundreds of ohms. I don't want to get into a big recap on this. I just want to do the absolute minimum for cost reasons. But I'm going to go through and check. Probably going to recap the amplifiers, the tone board. Not going to do the tuner. The tuner is working great, and then we'll evaluate and we'll see how the tape drives are working. If they need recapping, they probably do, but we'll see how bad they are first. Okay, I think I'm making some progress. I got the switch block back installed, and it seems to be working now. At least it's not flaky anymore, and we have both channels working, so that's good. But we still have a problem here. What is that? That's the auxiliary input. Got a little bit of a signal there. This is the phono stage. So that sounds like it's working. The auxiliary sounds like it's working as well. Except we still have one problem here. The tape. I'll put you on the scope. So here's the tape. I'm turning up the volume. Got a huge oscillation on one channel. I don't know what that's all about, but that is causing me problems right now. So that's my next step to troubleshoot where this oscillation is coming from. It's a pretty high frequency oscillation. Turn down the treble. Seems like that's the treble control, or is it? Yeah. Yeah, so I'm going to have to track that down. Something is wrong with that. Okay, I'll bring you back in when I find out what's going on there. I'm just playing around with this oscillation some more here. And let's see, there it is. Turn up the volume. I'm pressing in the record button for the A-track. And it might be just the switch is bad. See, there it's gone now. Yeah, that's what the problem is, that switch. Okay, I think I know what's going on now. Okay, you might have a little difficulty seeing what I'm pointing out here, but this is the board for the tape drives, the audio amplifiers. So this switch here, this long switch here, I removed and cleaned it. This one controls the function for the record playback amplifiers for the cassette. This switch here is the one that's causing me problems with the feedback and the oscillation. This one's for the 8-track mechanism. And getting these switches out was a huge pain in the ass. I'm really getting frustrated with this thing because the construction of this is garbage. The board is not very good. The pads are lifting. The solder pads are small. They're tiny. There's not enough room to, make proper connections. This was a pain to take out and put back in. This one's even going to be more so. It's longer. It's got more connections, and you can't flip this board down enough to get your soldering iron in there because you got all these wires. I had to disconnect these two, but there's all these wires on this side. There's these wires. There's wires underneath, and this is a huge pain in the ass working on these things. The quality's just not there with the construction. So I'll have to remove that switch and treat it. Somebody's been spraying stuff in down the top of these. Now if I manipulate the switch, where is the button? If I manipulate the switch, you can see it moving up and down. It's very stiff. Somebody sprayed some kind of grease in there, and it all needs to be cleaned out and relubricated and contacts cleaned. So I'm going to fight with that for the rest of the afternoon. Alright, back again after cleaning that switch. Now I should have stopped belly aching when I did because it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. But we have AM working, FM.
Donc, c'est des nouveaux concepts.
Look at this. The meters are now sitting at 0. So whatever fix I did for that switch, fix these meters. Okay, now here's the tape. No more oscillation. You can hear the amplifier noise. Here's the record switch. 8-track light comes on. Both meters are responding. Okay, so we should have our cassette working now. Before we didn't have any audio. It's working. Wrong speed though. Okay, we'll have to do a speed adjustment on that. Now, let's try out our 8-track. 8-track wasn't making any noise either, even though the tape was moving. Meters are working. Reject. Yeah. Sounds like the same song on every track. Yeah, it's all working now. We need to do a speed adjustment. So that's pretty simple. I'll get my speed tape out, put it in here, and then we'll make an adjustment. There's a motor, I'll show you here. Look on these motors, usually they have that sticker there. If you remove that sticker, come on, there's our adjustment hole right there. I can see a trim pot in there, so I'll have to get my ceramic screwdriver and we'll adjust that as I get my speed tape. Still need to clean the 8-track mechanism. Doesn't look like this seen a lot of tapes. I looked at the head and the head looks like brand new clean. This cassette deck on the other hand has seen a lot of views. The head's kind of worn, but we'll get that dialed in and then we'll start. Okay, I should have checked this before I did the speed adjustment, but I'll have you look at this now. Put it into play mode, turn this down. You can't see it now, but it's in the shadow. But if you look inside there, you can see that belt. See how it's riding to the left? You get a lot of wow and flutter, and the belt's trying to jump up onto the crown of that pulley. And let me see if I can. All I need to do is bend the motor one way or the other. There we go. You see how the belt climbed up onto the center? If I let go of the motor, it wants to crawl. I just have to align this motor better. It's not quite straight. We want it to ride in the center of that pulley. Alright, here's the motor removed. Now I don't know if you can see this. If I hold it up, maybe you can see it. The shaft of the motor has been pulled this way, and it's not center anymore. If I look at it from this side, if I look at it from here, the pulley is a little bit cocked that way. So my plan to fix this is I'm going to remove this screw and just add a washer behind it. And oh, that's going to be difficult. Well, we'll see. I'm going to add about a 1/2 millimeter thick washer. Okay, found a washer, and it is, let's see here, 0.64 millimeter. Okay. Just going to put this behind the rubber cushion here where the screw is. And that should realign the motor better. Oh, I gotta go into here. That should realign the motor better. Just hope I have enough threads to bite. Okay. Let me center this washer. There we go. Okay, just enough there. So what I just did is I put a shim in behind this rubber, and you can see it there, and it just tilts the motor a little bit back, and that's going to help center our belt on the pulley. Okay, back together. Let's have another watch at how it runs. Can you see that pulley in there? I hope you can. Okay, I'm going to get this started. There, see, it's in the center of the pulley now. That's where it needs to be. Now I'll have to do the speed adjustment one more time. So, I don't know if you can see, the belt is kind of twitching to one side there. Maybe you can't. But that's the pulley behind it, is wobbling pretty good. Alright, let's go off to the tuner. I want to do an alignment on this. And this is all the information I have. So this is quite a bit of help too. All of this down here is AM tuner. So this has your AM antenna right here. And AM oscillator coil. And this coil here. So this is all AM. So this is our FM coming straight through. Here's the oscillator coil right here. Okay, L105. Okay, I'll use that for setting up the dial accuracy. And then there should be a tuning capacitor here, a trimmer capacitor, TC103. This is the other. Tune this on the high end of the band, this one on the low end. This will be, yeah. And then this is your IF. This is an IF chip here. I think this is also AM. It's an LA1201. Let's see here. So this is IF here, and there's a trap here on the bottom that needs tuning. So we'll have to look at that. This here is our discriminator, or ratio detector. And this is what I think is off. This is what has the tuning meter off to one side, so we'll have to adjust that. And then everything past here will be stereo multiplex, okay? Through this, handled through this chip. It's an LA3350. And it's just stereo light. Yeah, everything here is working fine. It's back here where we have a trouble. Right here. And then I want to check alignment of everything else. So this will be helpful because it tells me which coil does what. And then I can just go through and tweak them. So I'll get started on that. I'll do the AM as well, and do the dial accuracy while I'm here. That makes it easy. And then I'll bring it back in. Alright, I think I got this dialed in. So this is the adjustment I did. Black marks is where it was originally, and this is where the core is now. So it's very slight adjustment to these two cores. Actually, the whole alignment of this radio was pretty much spot on. It was pretty accurate. And it hasn't, either the person that did the alignment did a really good job, or it hasn't drifted much. I also tweaked the 19 kilohertz oscillator on the LA3350. That's this potentiometer here. It was out by about 200 hertz, so I got that all dialed in. So this tuner should perform really well. It's pretty sensitive and it's pretty accurate. The dial accuracy is actually bang on too, so really doesn't need an alignment. And you can tell that when you start doing alignment on FM or AM radio, you can tell if it's in tune or not right away when you start doing your adjustment or your checks, and you start tweaking the coils, and they're not very far off. You know it's pretty much good, so you can judge that way. This one was good, so I'm going to leave this alone. I think we're done with the tuner. All right, so let's have a look at the amplifiers in this thing. Got it all connected for a power test. Let's turn it on. And let's have another turn it on. Yes, okay. So this is a quasi-complementary. capacitor coupled output. So we're going to see how well this does. I kind of have high hopes for this thing. You know, people say, "Oh, what are you working on this crap for? There's so much better stuff to be working on." Well, underneath the skin, it's all the same. You still have amplifiers, you still have tone circuits, you still have, you know, all of that. So basically, this thing should perform like any other. But let's just have a look. So I got the. Let's turn up the volume. Okay, here we go. And I'm monitoring the left channel, which is the top trace. And let's take it up to clipping. There's clipping. You can see the flutter on the top of the trace. Flutter on top, and we're getting clipping on the bottom of the trace. So it looks evenly balanced. Let's turn it down a bit to the point where it stops clipping. Right about here. Now, just off the top of my here, I can see one problem. We don't have equal channel balance. You can see how far out the channels are from each other in amplitude. Okay, so what do we have here? We've got 8.52 volts RMS on the output, which ain't bad. I think that's like 10 watts. Isn't that 10 watts? Let me calculate it. It's actually almost 9.1 watts. So I'm going to let this go for a while, and I'm going to see how it warms up. And here's our power consumption, 42 watts max. And here's the power consumption without any output. Drops to about 16. So yeah, I didn't expect much from I don't expect much from this little power transformer. It's not very big. So we're getting roughly 10 watts a channel. Yeah, there's not a lot of heat generated here. This thing probably goes full power all day long and it wouldn't phase it one bit. It's quasi-complementary. It's just starting to warm up. 10 watts a channel. My heatsink is just starting to warm up too. You can see right here, I've hit a spot where the pots don't track each other. See how the top one goes down? See, both are going, both, and then the top one moves, and then I crease both. So there's a spot there in the center where the potentiometers aren't tracking. So that's probably our imbalance. We might have to adjust that. Let's go and do some square waves. Oh boy. Now let's see here. Tone controls. This is bass. This is treble. We got some problems with. Yeah, we got some problems there. Is there a loudness on this? Maybe that's the loudness button I've got pressed in. There is no loudness control. So that's what we get, just the tone controls. So this is our volume. This is our balance. This is our treble. And that is fully counterclockwise. And then if I go up probably to about the 9 o'clock position, then right here. Same with the bass controls. Finally, it is fully counterclockwise. If I turn it clockwise, this is the distortion we get. So you can kind of tweak it to make it look like a square wave, but it's pretty bad. Now that both channels look the same tells me quite a bit too, that they're both working together as the values in each of the channels is similar. Let's go up in frequency. 5 kilohertz. Let's turn the treble down a bit. Six, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15 kilohertz. Yeah, we're just on into a sine wave now. Look at the low end. Hertz. Okay, I think I've seen enough. So just for the hell of it, I went through and did an analysis on distortion for left and right channels. This column here and this column here is left and right distortion. And for the most part, they're pretty much equal, about 0.5% and less. Here's the highest peaks, 0.54, 0.55. But that's not the big story here. The big story here is frequency response. So I'm getting different frequency response for each channel, which tells me we have a problem in one of the channels. They don't balance in frequency response. Now that could be for a number of things. That could be bad potentiometers in the bass treble controls, and it could be bad coupling caps within the amplifier. I'm beginning to think it's bad coupling caps in the amplifier. So if you want, you can pause that and have a look at it. It's not too interesting, but if you look, there's a small difference here between these ones, and then as on the low end of the band it gets quite different. So you get negative 0.7, 1.6, and these are in dBm. So here's the amplifier portion. This is the power amplifier here. It's a preamplifier, has a couple transistors. This is the input switching, and then everything to the left of this is tape amplifiers or phonostage. No, phonostage is down here, sorry. So what I'm looking at is these caps here. We have 0.47, 0.47, 0.47, 0.47. These are all coupling caps, and they're quite small. I would not put 0.47s in here. The problem with putting 0.47 caps is they have a limited frequency response. You want to have a bigger cap here, something like a 10 microfarad at least. And then at the input of the amplifier you have 1 microfarad here and here. And then at the output of the amplifiers we have 1,000 microfarad here and here. And what I propose to do is replace all these caps. I'm going to put 10 microfarads in these spots, these 6 caps here, and we're going to see how that frequency response changes. And then I'm going to replace these 2 output caps, 1,000 microfarad. I'm going to put maybe 2,200. The bigger the cap, the better the lower bass response. And then there's no bias adjustments for these amplifiers. So I'm going to make those little changes, and I'll rerun the tests again, and we'll see how it looks, if it improved or not. Okay, I changed a handful of caps. Now I'm going to show you here, but you can't see this. It's too blurry and too small. But both output capacitors, changed them from 1,000 microfarad to 2,200. These 2 input capacitors, changed them from 0.47 to 10 microfarad. And then I changed 4 caps on the tone board. 1, 2, 3, 4. And these were all 0.47s. I changed them to 10 microfarad. I also changed a power supply cap here from a 2200 to a 4700. Now, did I get any improvements in my numbers? Yes, I did. Actually, not very much, but the biggest notice was the distortion figures went down from probably 0.5% down to about 1/3%. This channel strangely stayed pretty close. There were some numbers that were lower, but this channel, the left channel, stayed the same. Now, frequency response is another matter. The tone controls in this thing are garbage, and you can't, there is no center position to have a flat tone response. So I did get a difference in tone frequency response, but it looks like it's flatter, and it's not as defined on the ends. Like from here it's 6.5, negative 6.5 dB at 30 kilohertz, and then here we got negative 4.8 dBms. Here we got negative 6, and here we got negative 3.7. So frequency response did improve, but overall gains, they're minimal. But there are gains. So this is, I guess you could call this proof that it works. Changing caps will make it sound better. But that'll be determined by listening test too. So I'm done with this now. I still want to clean the belts. I'm not going to replace belts. I'm going to clean them, and because they're fine, they have elasticity and they're doing their job. So I'm going to clean the heads on the 8-track, and then I'm going to do a final test one more time, and then I'm going to put this back in the case. Just going through and doing alignment on the cassette heads, and I got to tell you, it's a challenge because the sloppy tolerances in this thing make it impossible to fine-tune it into, you know, working properly. One tape it sounds great, next tape it sounds one channel's dropped out, and yeah, this cassette is not high fidelity. It is just a convenience item placed there so you can maybe play a tape. Same goes for this too. This was never intended to be high fidelity. None of this is intended to be high fidelity. They try to give you everything in one package, and they sacrificed precision and quality here, but it works. So let's just get through it, and I just want to try and dial this in a little closer. Yeah, what do you say? What do you do?
Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget. I use them all to push me to my best. So treat the worst of times just like a test. If only I could go back in time, I'd tell myself that everything will end up alright. Just push yourself, test yourself, figure out what you like, and find your limits, don't be rigid, always work towards a prime. Surround yourself with open minds, people can change your life. A few friends with intent can help you feel alive. Find a passion, take some action, and with a little time, just be patient, make a statement, try to enjoy your life. They'll try to kick you while you're down. They wanna rise up while you drown. They wanna fill your head with doubt. They're silently scared that you'll figure it out. I'll make it look like I'm losing, won't bother hiding my bruises. And when they finally think you're wounded, then it's your chance to be ruthless.
So I don't know what you think about that, but from where I'm sitting, it sounds pretty good considering what we're playing this on. This was recorded on the Sony TCK80 Mark II. I think I featured that in a video a while back, that Sony deck. And this is a pretty good recording, coming across pretty clean on this one. Problem with this machine is there's a lot of background hiss and background hum, and all kinds of buzzing and things from the, you know, the bridge rectifier diodes. You can hear them, all kinds of noises coming through on this tape. But and then not to mention the wow and flutter and the speed variations. It's actually doing pretty good. I'd say it sounds pretty good for what it is.
Is what defines. So I won't give up, I'm gonna make it to the top.
Alright, that wraps this one up. I'm going to put this into listening mode for a while and see how it sounds. I have a feeling the amplifiers and everything are just great in this thing. Now, what I did with regards to changing some caps, that was all experimental. I wanted to see how different caps affect the circuits on these things. This one is heavily capacitor coupled in the signal path. Some receiver amplifiers don't have any capacitors in the signal path. And those are the ones you're going to see, okay, well, you change all the caps in it, but it sounds the same. Those ones are the ones that are designed that way. This one has a little different design. It's an old design. Everything's capacitor coupled. So yes, when you have degrading capacitors, when you have 40-year-old capacitors in these things, the sound quality starts to go. And I kind of proved it a bit in my before and after with the frequency response and the THD measurements. I kind of confirmed that, you know, putting fresh caps in can clean things up. It's not a solution for all pieces of equipment, but it is for some. So yeah, this is going to get a listening test. The big thing with this was this switch here, this function switch, was totally useless the way it was. It wasn't working. You press it in, you drop one channel or both, and when I put it into tape, there was massive oscillations going on, and that was due to the switches in the amplifier circuits for the tape drives. They were dirty and they were causing problems. So once we got that fixed up, got this fixed up, this thing all came back to life. As far as controls go, everything's working pretty good. Scratchiness is all gone, and I'm going to give this back to the owner and they can use it. Alright, well that's it for this one. I'm going to wrap this one up and talk to you later. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.